Hello everyone, kumusta kayo? Dahil sa mga pangyayari ngayon sa bansang Ukraine at bansang Russia, gusto ko lang ibahagi sa inyo ang kunting kasaysayan o history ng bansang Ukraine. Ang Ukraine ay matatagpuan sa Europe continent. Kung ito ay iyong titingnan sa mapa, ito ay matatagpuan mo sa latitude na 49.00 degrees north at longitude 32.00 degrees east. At ang mga bansang naging boundaries ng Ukraine ay ang Belarus, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Moldova, and Russia. At ang populasyon sa bansang Ukraine ay may 43,192,122. At ang languages na ginamit sa Ukraine ay Ukrainian 67.5%, Russian regional languages 29.6%, Crimean, Moldovan, and Hungarian speaking minorities 2.9%. Ang religiyon sa bansang Ukraine ay Ukrainian Orthodox Kiev Patriarchate, Ukrainian Orthodox Moscow Patriarchate, Ukrainian Greek Catholic, Roman Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, and Jewish. Ito ang kasaysayan ng Ukraine. Ukraine was the center of the first Eastern Slavic state, Kievan Rus, which during the 10th and 11th centuries was the largest and most powerful state in Europe, weakened by internecine quarrels and Mongol invasions. Kievan Rus was incorporated into the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and eventually into the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The cultural and religious legacy of Kievan Rus laid the foundation for Ukrainian nationalism through subsequent centuries. A new Ukrainian state, Cossack Hetmanate, was established during the mid-17th century after uprising against the Poles. Despite continuous Muscovite pressure, the Hetmanate managed to remain autonomous for well over 100 years. During the later part of the 18th century, most Ukrainian ethnographic territory was absorbed by the Russian Empire. Following the collapse of Czarist Russia in 1917, Ukraine achieved a short-lived period of independence in 1917 to 1920, but was reconquered and endured a brutal Soviet rule that engineered two forced famines, 1921 to 1922 and 1932 to 1933, in which over 8 million died. In World War II, German and Soviet armies were responsible for 7 to 8 million more deaths. Although Ukraine achieved final independence in 1991 with the dissolution of the USSR, democracy and prosperity remain elusive as the legacy of state control and endemic corruption stalled efforts at economic reform. Privatization and civil liberties, a peaceful mass protest referred to as the Orange Revolution and the closing months of 2004, forced the authorities to overturn a rigid presidential election to allow a new internationally monitored vote that swept into power a reformist state under Viktor Yushchenko. Subsequent internal squabbles in the Yushchenko camp allowed his rival Viktor Yanukovych to stage a comeback in Parliamentary Rada election, become Prime Minister in August 2006, and be elected President in February 2010, In October 2012, Ukraine held Rada election widely criticized by Western observers as flawed due to use of government resources to favor ruling party candidates. Interference with media access and harassment of opposition candidates. President Yanukovych backtracking on a trade and cooperation agreement with the EU in November 2013 in favor of closer economic ties with Russia and subsequent use of force against civil society activists in favor of the agreement led to a 3-month protest occupation of Kiev Central Square. The government use of violence to break up the protest camp in February 2014 led to all-out pitched battles, scores of deaths, international condemnation, and the president's abrupt departure to Russia. New election in the springs allowed pro-West President Petro Poroshenko to assume office on 7 June 2014. Shortly after Yanukovych's departure in late February 2014, Russian President Putin ordered the invasion of Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula, claiming the action was to protect the ethnic Russians living there. 2 weeks later, a referendum was held regarding the integration of Crimea into the Russian Federation. The referendum was condemned as illegitimate by the Ukrainian government, the EU, the US, and the UN General Assembly. UNGE, although Russia illegally annexed Crimea after the referendum. The Ukrainian government, backed by UNGE Resolution 68/262, asserts that Crimea remains part of Ukraine and fully under Ukrainian sovereignty. Russia also continues to supply separatists in 2 of Ukraine's eastern provinces with manpower, funding, and material, resulting in an armed conflict with the Ukrainian government. Representatives from Ukraine, Russia, and the unrecognized separatist republic signed a ceasefire agreement in September 2014. However, this ceasefire failed to stop the fighting. In a renewed attempt to alleviate ongoing clashes, leaders of Ukraine, Russia, France, and Germany negotiated a follow-on peace deal in February 2015 known as the Minsk Agreements. Representatives from Ukraine, Russia, and the Organization for the Security and Cooperation in Europe also met regularly to facilitate implementation of the peace deal. Scattered fighting between Ukrainian, Russian-backed separatist forces still ongoing in eastern Ukraine. That's all.